we've really been able to deliver for these customers as well, right? Now, just to give you a quick view of the benefits, it majorly centers around performance, where with Tessel's patent and the choice of infrastructure that we can offer, we can actually leverage or tap into 10x the performance compared to your usual performance that you get on cloud. In terms of database management, with a couple of intuitive dashboards like availability machine and data flicks. The way we like to call data management is delightful data management with Tessel, right? Now, governance is key for any customer today. Visibility into what is happening with your databases on cloud. That's why with Tessel, we offer granular level control for your databases, while also allowing the customers to bring their own net policies, encryption keys, essentially running it as per their terms, right? And at the end of the day, we all are aware the database is the heart and soul for any customer environment today, right? And that's where Tessel is up and ready with their 24/7 mission critical support for your database services, so that you don't really have to worry about them, right? Now, like I said, it's been a beautiful journey for us last 4 years, with 50 plus companies on board, multiple discussions around Oracle cloud migration, successful cloud migrations, I would say, essentially helping customers to also tune down their costs across infrastructure, Oracle licenses, and effectively operations, right? We're also SOC 1, SOC 2, and ISO 27001 certified, and with more certifications in the pipeline. I believe that should fit into the regulation and compliance aspect as well for most customers across industries, right? Now, essentially, what we're looking at is a SaaS platform, like I mentioned earlier, to manage all of your database operations on cloud today. And the way the platform is also built is it caters to everybody across the value chain in the database operation space, right? Be it your DBAs, be it your IT admins, your infrastructure leads, your cloud architects, or even your third-party auditors in case they want to access some data which is sanitized or masked that you need to share, right? All of that beautifully developed within a single orchestration platform on Azure for you, available for your Oracle databases today, right? Now, just to give you a quick snapshot of the customer engagements that we've been having, these are some of the publicly referenceable customers that we have. And as you can see, we kind of cut across almost every industry, be it BFSI, be it energy and oil sectors, be it your retail sectors, or even your transportation and logistics. One common aspect that we've seen is the Oracle database on cloud or on Azure, where there are a bunch of pain points that we're trying to solve across cost, across performance, operational efficiency. And like Patrick mentioned, with multitudes of options today available for customers, we would also like to share what Tessel actually brings to the table when it comes to Oracle and Azure, right? Now, let's address the elephant in the room, right? Oracle databases. What is there on customers' minds, right? And based on my interaction with customers in the past, based on my team's experience, what we've heard from the market, majorly there are about 4 or 5 elements, 4 or 5 thought processes that customers carry when it comes to looking at migrating the Oracle databases to cloud, right? The first thing is choice, right? Given that there are different kinds of Oracle databases today, each of them requiring a different kind of performance, different kind of operational capabilities on cloud. Customers generally try to understand what are the choices that they have today, right? Be it in terms of infrastructure, do they have the right performance for the right kind of workload? So that is one key element where customers are interested to know what we have, right? The second aspect is, say you have the choice of infrastructure, you've decided what kind of infrastructure you need. At the end of the day, you still need to orchestrate your Oracle workloads on cloud today, right? And the way you would want to do it is not spend a lot of time in hygiene tasks or daily repeatable tasks, which are probably very critical and essential for the operation, but also pretty mundane in terms of really contributing to the application or the business, right? The third part is, while, of course, say you figured out the code in terms of infrastructure, you figured out the code in terms of operations, how do you ensure that your performance levels are optimal so that your application performs better, your database performs better? Now, of course, cloud is built for performance scalability, right? But at the end of the day, we also need to keep a tab on what is the cost element that is associated with that performance, with that choice of infrastructure and the operations, right? Now, say you cracked all of these 3 elements, right? There's still one critical element that is left on the table, and that is seamless cloud migration, right? Like, how do you ensure that you seamlessly migrate your Oracle databases to your Azure cloud, to a solution or a DBaaS kind of a solution without having a lock-in in place, right? That's where I would cue the music for Tessel to come into the picture there, right? Essentially, what we do is, be it databases on-premise, your Oracle databases on-premise, be it you're on another managed service like maybe an RDS, an AWS, or be it you're even having an accelerator box on-premise, right? What Tessel strives to offer here is the choice of infrastructure across different shapes and sizes, across different kind of performance needs, while ensuring that you have an orchestration layer built across for your Oracle workloads, so that when you move to cloud, say you get the right performance, you're also able to operationally be efficient from a day-to-day activity perspective, right? Essentially, if you look at the cloud infrastructure layer, right, today Tessel has options across your standard shapes. We can also tap into the NVMe storage, which is patented by Tessel to offer 10x the performance. We do database native snapshots. We also partner with NetApp to offer you the flavor of Azure NetApp files, wherein you can get superior performance, superior efficiency. And of course, Tarun will be speaking more on that as we progress in the session, right? And of course, at the end of the accelerator workloads as well, we do have an option for the customers to actually adopt Tessel along with that. Right? Now, just to give you a quick view, right? Even if a customer is having accelerator today on premise, or even if they're adopting accelerator on cloud, or rather they're looking at an IaaS option on cloud on Azure. If you look at all of these tasks on the left side, right, from scheduling, cloning, refreshing, scaling,
node types when we were referring to
I'm a sales guy.
Kubernetes.
If I look at all of these tasks,
The
these
first
are
being the
actually mundane
master
tasks,
node,
hygiene tasks,
which is
but equally
totally
critical
managed by
tasks which are
Microsoft.
required
You don't
for
have
the
to
upkeep
worry
of your
about it,
databases and
just be
ensuring that your
aware that
RPO
it's
and
there.
RTO SLAs
Next
are
is
met.
the agent
Right?
node, which you
That is
will
where Tessel
configure.
comes into the picture. That
Microsoft
no matter
recommends
what kind of
3 nodes
infrastructure layer
for
you want
production,
today, which is
but for testing, you can get
optimal
away
for
with
your
1
kind of
node.
workload,
The next point
Tessel
is
is there to
really
ensure that
important.
we give you the
You are
choice to adopt that
unable to
infrastructure,
change the
while
node
also
size
ensuring that you have
after
the operation
creation.
capabilities on
This
cloud
is
for your
written in
database
stone,
operations. Right?
but you can
Essentially, all
change
of these
the
tasks
number
with
of
multiple
nodes.
one-click
Moving on to
functionalities
scaling
within the
in
Tessel platform
Kubernetes.
gets
Virtual
gets
nodes
easy in
allow
terms
for
of database
burstable
management,
scaling.
and that's
If you
where
select a
my
VM
team likes
scale
to call it
set,
as
this
delightful
supports
data management,
auto-scaling and multiple
as
node
heard from our
pools.
customers as well.
Moving on to
Right?
networking in Kubernetes. There is
Now, how do we
basic
really do
networking.
this, right?
When you
Of course,
select
there
this,
are
a new virtual
multiple
network is created
infrastructure layers
using
that
the
are available
default
with Tessel.
values. If you need to customize your network, then you'll move into advanced. Here, you can select customizable address spaces, and you can bring your own virtual networks. Now that we finished with Kubernetes, let's quickly touch on Azure Container Instances, starting with the image type, and there are 2. There is a public image, which does not require credentials, and a private image, which does. Azure Container Instances, or ACIs, are not scalable. To get hands-on for the exam, I would suggest that you create a Kubernetes cluster with basic networking and create an Azure Container Instance using a public image. Azure Container Instances, or ACIs, are not scalable. I would suggest that you create a Kubernetes cluster with basic networking and create an Azure Container Instance using a public image. The Azure Administrator exam will test your knowledge on your ability to create and configure web apps. There are 2 objectives that you need to master. You need to be able to create and configure an app service and to create and configure app service plans. The Azure App Service is used to host web will test your knowledge on your ability to create and configure web apps. There are 2 objectives that you need to master. You need to be able to create and configure an app service and create and configure app service plans. The Azure App Service is used to host
monitoring in place. Customer gets the best of post-migration support as well, especially with our 24/7 mission-critical support in picture. Right? Now, with all of these elements put together, that's where Tessel tries to bring the best of all worlds and piece it together for the customer, so that they have the choice of infrastructure for their optimal workload. They have the best performance for their workloads. Their overall TCO is in control, is in line with what their expectation is. And also at the end of the day, seamless database management on cloud without any lock-in to the Tessel platform, right? Just to give you a quick snapshot view of one of our customers, As you can see on the slide, right, this is one of the largest smart metering companies based out of Switzerland, where they were looking to migrate their Oracle workloads out of their data centers to the Azure cloud, right? Essentially, with a large estate across multiple server clusters, they were looking for an expert for expert advice on what would be the best strategy to migrate these Oracle workloads to Azure in terms of the infrastructure needs, their performance needs, and of course the overall operational efficiency part as well, right? Interesting piece. They were also looking for partition support on Oracle SE2, which is something Tessel supports today. And at the end of the day, if you look at the overall picture for them, which is a pretty beautiful picture in terms of their overall cost saving, in terms of their application availability. And at the end of the day, while they did reduce their IT estate overall by 50%, they also ended up saving a lot in terms of licenses, right? And like I said, we'll speak more on how we actually end up doing that in terms of optimization. Now, one of the key things that the customer was quite impressed with, of course, they were pretty happy with the overall cost saving, the operational efficiency, the management layer that they're getting on Azure for Oracle with Tessel. Yeah, but one of the key things they also really appreciate is the expertise that the teams bring in, right? Like I said earlier, four of our co-founders, with multiple patents in the database management space, especially during that time, also spent largely with the Oracle database world. That's where our expertise also keeps growing in terms
Web
of what we can
apps,
deliver
REST
to the customer
APIs,
today.
and mobile backends. It supports
Now,
load balancing,
common questions,
security,
right? We do have
auto-scaling,
another
and
solution in
automated.
place, like an RDS for Oracle. What do we really have to offer in terms of differentiation in terms of what we bring to the table for Oracle on Azure, right? Few things we would like to talk about where Tessel brings in value to the customers, especially when it comes to Oracle on Azure. Like I said earlier, with Tessel being able to tap into the NVMe storage, we can actually provide 10x the performance. And there are certain benchmark studies published also on our website. You can have a look. Probably we'll put it in the chat window as well shortly. If you look at this on the right side, right, for the same shape of what Tessel and RDS has, Tessel can actually extract about 10x the performance by tapping into the NVMe storage for your Oracle workloads. Essentially, what that means is your performance to cost ratio changes drastically. And also to add to that, because Tessel does not have any zero provision IOPS cost, which is not the same in other solutions in the market, your overall TCO also comes down eventually, right? Now, to add to that, the choice of infrastructure layers that we spoke about, be it your NVMe storage, your standard shapes, your Azure NetApp files, and other infrastructure options that the customers have. This is one of the key differentiators that we can bring to the table as well, right? When it comes to performance, when it comes to scalability across infrastructure, and also your total cost of ownership, right? And the second piece where we majorly contribute to the total cost of ownership is the multi-DB feature by Tessel, right? Now, today, if you notice, generally there is a 1:1 mapping when it comes to your Oracle databases versus the VMs on cloud, right? What Tessel offers in terms of their capabilities is the multi-database support, where we can actually pack more databases in a single VM, right? Essentially, what that does, of course, it's based on certain utilization assessment and the IOPS requirement, what we identify. But essentially, what that means for a customer is, since we can pack more databases in a single VM, that actually
Yeah.
And also because Tessel does database native replication, the amount of time that it requires for failover and failback is quite less compared to most of the solutions in the market, right? Now, there are customers where we've had certain mishaps happen where what would have taken them about 24 hours to bring back the data, because they were on Tessel, they were able to do it within 30 minutes, right? So requirement also goes down, and that's where
Management.
customers see huge savings
There
in
are
terms of
three-
Oracle licenses. Right? Now, how do we really do this, right? I've spoken multiple times about saving cost, Oracle licenses. That's where our method comes into picture when it comes to the assessment piece, right? Typically, our teams analyze the AWR reports. What we look at is the peak workloads, the utilization, the IOPS requirement, and effectively we identify what the target estate is. And based on the infrastructure choices that the customers have, we can try and optimize based as per the performance and cost ratio, whatever is best for the customer and whatever is best for the workload that we're looking at, right? And what we were able to achieve with one of the largest customers in the Europe region for us, which is a global Fortune 100 energy giant, is pretty impressive in terms of their overall cost saving, their migration journey to Azure, and at the end of the day, their operational savings also that they're actually benefiting from today. Right? 700 Oracle database, right? Huge estate. They had multiple environments across OCI, across on-premise, and a few in Oracle, on Azure as well, where they were trying to consolidate. That's where Tessel came into the picture with its expertise, where we were able to project a savings of almost 1.45 million. And as you can notice, right, the first step is always looking at the data, looking at the AWR reports, optimizing their infrastructure as per the requirement, as per the workloads. And the moment you do that, you also end up optimizing their overall Oracle license requirement. And of course, it's not only Oracle licenses, there are also other support packs that are involved, effectively projecting a cost over there, a cost saving over there. And at the end of the day, if you look at operational savings as well, with the level of automation built in, with the amount of one-click functionalities built into the platform, customers benefit from huge operational savings as well, where their DBAs typically can focus on more meaningful tasks rather, transforming them into what we call as a DBE, right, a database engineer. Right? And that's what Tessel strives to achieve when it comes to the overall optimization. It's not only about cost of infrastructure or your Oracle licenses, but it's also about your operational efficiency savings across your journey with us, throughout your journey with us, I would say. Now, at the end of the day, in terms of the deliverables that we have, what we deliver to the customer is across these 4 pillars majorly, right? One is cost, your overall TCO reduction when it comes to infrastructure, licenses, operational efficiency, and your journey through with the Tessel platform. The other thing is performance. We can tap into multiple infrastructure layers, which is available on Azure today, as mentioned earlier. Operational efficiency, where the dashboard itself is built to propagate operational efficiency to customers with multiple intuitive dashboards in place, right? And at the end of the day, we want to ensure that business continuity is there for our customer. And that's where our one-click cross-region DR and HA comes into the picture, where we want to ensure near zero RTO and RTO, right? And one last bit is with Tessel, allowing customers to run database at their own terms. What we also strive to do is allow customers to bring their own third-party tools. Like, for example, when it comes to Oracle, we've always seen customers want to bring Oracle DAM agents or OEM agents or other third-party tools, observability tools that you would want to integrate. And Tessel allows that so that if there is a compliance or a regulation requirement for that, customers stay compliant. Now, that being said, we are available on Marketplace today, so you can actually burn your Mac credits. Definitely reach out to us for a private offer or Azure as well, as we work very closely with them. We're also available. We're also there on the Gartner Peer Insights. So do have a look at us. We've been having tremendous reviews across across industries. I would say, especially across your performance, your operational efficiency, the expertise that we can bring to the table, and we'll be more than happy to share more data points as well on this. I've just added a quick contact card for your reference, so feel free to reach out to us for a free demo. You can also go to the website and directly book a demo with us, and one of my team members will definitely reach out as soon as possible. Right. So that'll be all from my side. Make sure that you go through our website. There are a lot of blogs written on, especially for Oracle and Azure. We have a lot of benchmark studies as well published. I'll share the same in the chat as well after this session for your reference. And feel free to reach out to us and have a great session. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Tarun Arora, and thanks Jagta for a wonderful session. I'm here to talk about Oracle on Azure and how customers are leveraging Azure NetApp files in Azure. I'm a principal cloud solution architect at NetApp, and I'm presenting this from my home office in Sydney, wearing a black t-shirt and a headphone for the session. Let's start with a quick overview of Azure NetApp files. Azure NetApp files, as we understand, it's a joint effort from Microsoft and NetApp. It's bringing in NetApp enterprise level capabilities, ONTAP capabilities into Azure ecosystem. The service has been there in Azure for close to 5 years, and it brings in on-premises bare metal level performance across multiple tiers into Azure. Customers typically, when they're looking at doing mission critical applications in Azure, they're looking at a service which would give them low latency and high throughput. Azure NetApp files becomes ideal choice for such customers. Just want to point out that it is a first-party Microsoft service. It is everything is what you would expect typically from any Azure service. You can expect that from Azure NetApp files. When it comes to Azure NetApp files for Oracle workloads, customers are typically looking for a service which can give them near on-premise like performance and give them the flexibility to scale up or scale down the capacity. They don't have to provision all the service, all the volumes required at any given time. They can resize their volumes on demand. We do support space and time efficient snapshot and cloning, which makes it very efficient for customers to manage storage in their setup. Using cross-region replication capabilities along with Oracle Data Guard, customers can build their DR regions in Azure regions, and this is something which is very flexible for the customers. Moving forward, if I have to sum up some of the advantages which customers have been able to leverage with Oracle migrations when they consider using ANF, we do bring in low latency and high throughput at storage layer, which makes it possible for customers to achieve the kind of performance that they typically are used to experiencing on their on-premises setup. We do offer efficient backup, recovery, and optimized deployment scenarios, and we'll be taking a closer look at some of the features which make this possible for us. And with some of the specific capabilities which ANF brings to the table, you'll be able to optimize your cost in Azure infrastructure, and you don't have to plan for your peak workload. You'll be able to dynamically scale up, scale down, depending on the requirements which you would have on your specific scenarios. Now, when we go to customer values and benefits associated with ANF for Oracle workloads, customers typically will be able to achieve low-level latency for their workload, and will be able to give them the performance in excess of 10 gigabytes throughput, which is essential for Oracle workloads. They'll be able to reduce the backup and recovery time, and using our space-efficient snapshots and clones, and some of the features like application volume group, which I'll be covering later in the slide, they'll be able to manage their infrastructure very efficiently. Now with ANF, you will be able to manage your VM costs as well. We'll talk closer about how we accomplish this, and overall TCO in the system can significantly be impacted with leveraging some of the capabilities which ANF bring to the table. Some of the customers who are already taking advantage of some of the features which ANF offer, we have customers like Italgas, ABN AMRO, who have been able to bring in their Exadata environment into Azure VMs and leveraging some of the capabilities. They have been able to achieve performance of 4 gigabytes per second for their environment itself. For Italgas, they have been able to match some of the performance which they were experiencing on premises and able to reduce their costs significantly and bring down the backup times from 15 hours, which was typical in their environment, to less than 15 minutes using the snapshot capabilities of Azure NetApp files. Now, how do we achieve these kind of spectacular results for our Oracle customers? Some of the key things which, one of the key takeaway from this slide is Azure NetApp Files, being a network storage service, is not bound by disk IOP limits. We are typically bound by the VM queue's network throughput limits. What does this mean? What does this mean for the customer? Well, typically, what happens is most of the customers would end up, because of the disk IOP limits which are there on the VM, they often have to spec the VM configuration to a higher level, but when they leverage ANF, they'll be able to spec and work with their Oracle VMs at a lower spec machine and saving costs. So smaller VM size is something which you can definitely accomplish with bringing ANF into your Oracle IS sort of a configuration. Again, you can expect very good performance, as the chart indicates. With DNF support, we can offer very low level of latency, and DNFS is something which is going to be a key part of the strategy when you are doing your deployment for Oracle IS in Azure with DNF. So as I was talking about optimizing VM costs and Oracle licensing, we can bring down both these costs as we are not constrained by the limits associated with disk IO. This is a classic example where a customer is looking for achieving a throughput of around 883 megabytes per second. Now, this is something which, if you are doing this with a managed disk, because of the disk IO limits, you might have to go for a higher spec machine. But when you bring Azure NetApp Files into the mix, you might be able to achieve similar result with a VM which is costing much cheaper than the normal machine which you would be going for with a managed disk. So these kind of scenarios are very specific to deployment, but very much possible. So this is something which you can explore with us when we look at specs of your specific workload. Now, coming to the performance, as it's quite evident with Azure NetApp Files, we are able to bring in sub-millisecond latency using zonal placement. Now, this chart clearly reflects the kind of results which are possible, and this, we are talking about a single volume performance itself. In this example, with an IO of 160K, random Oracle IOPS have been very well achieved in the test conditions, and we have customers taking advantage of these kind of performance benchmarks in their real-world deployment scenarios. With a single volume, 4 gigabytes, sequential Oracle throughput limit is something which is tested and very much experienced in the real-world conditions as well. Again, these results were achieved using DNFS for enhanced performance. With multiple volume limits, this is something which is one of the customers in one of the leading retailers in Australia is pretty much using this scenario where they have Oracle deployed across a scale-out volume sort of deployment scenario, and they have been able to achieve performance of 30 gigs for Oracle throughput, and this is something which is extremely important. They tested this in a variety of scenarios, and out of all the available options for storage, ANF was deemed to be the most appropriate and most cost-effective choice for them. So both single volume and multiple volume scenarios are something which would give you the kind of performance which might you might be after for achieving for running Oracle in Azure. Now, when it comes to optimizing deployment scenarios, we have a feature called application volume group for Oracle. Now, this feature makes it possible to bring in pretty much standardized process for doing your volume rollout for Oracle based on the best practices which are there from Oracle as well as from Azure team. We have structured this particular feature specifically for, previously it was available for our SAP HANA customers only, but recently we have made this feature available, which uses a rule-based template approach for doing volume deployment and doing the necessary optimization for rolling out Oracle on Azure NetApp in Azure environment. Moving further, there are a variety of backup options which are available for the customers. In a IS kind of a scenario, they look at doing typical RMAN backup, and that's something which can very well be worked out with ANF. But if you switch to something like storage-based snapshot backup, which is central to ANF offering, you can see significant reduction in your backup and recovery timeline. And even it doesn't put any load, additional load, because these are both time and space and efficient snapshots. And this is something which is happening in the background. So it's not putting any additional load on your database server or on the network layer itself. So this is how, when we talk about reducing the backup time and restore time, switching to snapshot-based backup is something which is extremely powerful for most of our customers. Now, specifically for this sort of an example, which covers a scenario where we have a 40 terabyte database, a comparison, if let's say you're doing backup, we are looking at doing a typical RMAN backup, which would take about 40 hours, can be brought down to 2 minutes using snapshot-based backup. And similarly, restore and recovery time, assuming similar restore and backup speed, can be considerably brought down from 45 hours to 40 minutes. So that sort of advantage you can very well expect if you switch from a file-based backup to a snapshot-based backup approach. And ANF makes it possible for you to switch to these snapshot-based backup. ODD for Oracle Database at Azure Service customers, they can consider using ANF as a backup target in case they're considering self-managed backup option. And customers using ARS for long-term backup retention, they can consider using ANF for keeping their copies in Azure itself. So those are some of the possibilities which ODA customers can explore on ANF. More details on some of the scenarios which we have, some of the customers wins which we have had. So this is previously which I talked about, one of the customers moving their Oracle Exadata to Azure, and the significant achievement in terms of performance which they were able to achieve with ANF. And another retailer which I was talking about, this is a customer based in Australia. They have been able to successfully migrate their Exadata onto Azure VMs using multi-volume scenarios, which I previously covered in the slide. So with that, I think I can hand it back to the team to wrap up things.
Thank you, Tarun, for handing over to me. Here, myself, Venugopal. I'm Technical Director for Data Migrations at Quadrant. I'll be covering Oracle to Azure PostgreSQL migrations. And before that, I want to introduce Quadrant. Quadrant is a cloud, data, and AI company. We are actually the finalist for the Partner of the Year Awards for category OSS on Azure migrations. So we are the fastest growing company with 100+ million revenue per year. We are growing year on year about 40%. We have about 3,000+ professionals working around the world, like about 20+ locations around the world. And our focus areas are doing the database migrations, data migrations, and app modernizations. And we also handle data governance and data security for clients. We do the implementations, fabric implementations, including AI designs for the clients. So we have a data migration center of excellence. We provide services like detailed assessments, database migrations, database performance tuning and administration, and providing database AI enablement for clients. So we have, with our deep expertise, we have built a QMigrator, a database migration accelerator tool. It migrates from any source to any target. You can see more details at qmigrator.ai. So we have done complex migrations from Oracle to PostgreSQL, like recently we have done a mission critical migration for Apollo hospitals. And this migration accelerator, it covers all the aspects of migrations. It does the client onboarding and an assessment with AI-enabled assessment. And it has the migration module, which covers the code conversion, data migration, validation, functional and performance testing validation as well. And it can deploy to multiple environments. And for each of the migration process, it creates the reports. And it does have dashboards, which shows where we are in the migration process. So having automated all these migration processes, it reduces the time from months to weeks. And it translates that savings for the customer. So yeah, just having that introduction about Quadrant and QMigrator, I actually want to set the agenda for today. Like I'm going to be covering why Azure PostgreSQL, and what are the migration challenges migrating from Oracle to PostgreSQL, and what do we need to cover part of the assessment and migration planning, and the migration process in detail as well. So why PostgreSQL? You all know that PostgreSQL is an open source database platform. It is very extendable, like it has extensions. The concept of extensions makes it growing with many extensions. It has large developer community and it is continuously growing. And it is actually battle tested and enterprise ready. We ourselves have done migration of critical workloads to Azure PostgreSQL, and they are on par with commercial databases, if not better in some instances. So it has a rich feature set in terms of text handling, geospatial data, graphical graph data, and even for AI applications, vector embeddings. Yeah, it does all the feature set. So on top of the rich PostgreSQL features, Azure builds on top of it. It makes it globally available, and it integrates with Azure resources like ADF. Most of the extensions, Postgres extensions, are available in Azure, and it makes the database management easy. And it has features for high availability DR and scaling up and scaling out. It does have intelligent performance tuning wizard, and it provides data at rest and data in transit very secure. And Azure makes PostgreSQL central to their AI platform as well. So having, it's very lucrative to have migrating to Azure PostgreSQL. So, and the PostgreSQL is very compatible with Oracle. What are the migration challenges? We're going to go through them. So having, data type, we need to have, there are little nuances in data type differences, like date formats, and as well as the numeric number formats as well. And there are like how we handle the sequences to make sure that same sequences are carried over to Postgres is important to maintain the data integrity. And having all the code, PL SQL code has to be converted into PL/PG SQL format. And just converting the code, we might not get the best performance, but with little tweaks, we can match and get even better performance than the legacy systems. So having application code changes is along with the database platform change, we need to have application code changes as well. And data migration could be complex depending upon the volume and variety. And ensuring the application is having functionally same and the data integrity is there, the testing and validation is critical. So, and other complexity comes into play is like during the migration process, production could have some production fixes or other feature changes. Integrating that into migration process is also important. So like using right migration tools and techniques is challenging as well. So we cover how we have to handle these migration challenges in assessment and migration planning and the migration process. So the assessment and migration plan. So to start with, we have to use discovery tools. The discovery tools can scan the databases to know the inventory of the databases and to know what are the database object counts in terms of number of tables and its table dependent objects like constraints, indexes, so on and so. And the actual code objects like procedures, functions, and how many statements we have, and what is the complexity of the code, and the size of the database, and what are the database features. This all has to be discovered part of the assessment. And similarly, like AWR reports that are available in Oracle has to be scanned, and we need to find the capacity utilization of the current system. And having that quantitative analysis or the quantitative measures part of the discovery, we also have to have the qualitative analysis by knowing the current system architecture, means how the database is playing the role in the current system. And we also have to have know the information firsthand through SMEs, subject matter experts. What is the current business process? What are the data flows? And what are the current system challenges? And the other migration considerations are how the current environment is set up, like whether it is a rack or Exadata, and how the on-prem is connected to cloud. What is the network bandwidth that is available? And what are the database features, like whether it is using any materialized views, partitions, any tools like DataGuard it is using, and how the security is implemented, how the users and roles are set up, or how PII data is handled. And also, part of this assessment process, we need to know whether all Oracle features are mapped to Postgres features or not. Are there any features that needs to be worked around? And whether Oracle has any user-defined data types. How do we have to handle them? And what are the current performance benchmarks we have in the current system? Like what is the transaction growth looks like and how the database is growing? So all these aspects have to be understood part of the assessment process. And also here we need to look at the architecture in terms of from a database perspective, how the database is being interacting with on-prem applications, messaging systems, ETL systems, and reporting systems. And when we are proposing in the target architecture, how the equivalent resources are, we need to select what are the options that are available in Azure. Like, for example, when application is migrated, whether it is going to be directly lift and shift, or the application has to be made cloud native microservices hosted on Azure Kubernetes service, or it could be in between like a managed app service. So those options have to be evaluated and selected carefully when we are proposing the target architecture, part of the assessment. So other analysis that we need to do is whether all the if there are any unsupported features are there. If there are any unsupported features, we need to make sure that there are workarounds. Like, do we need to do any POCs, any part of the code that needs to be rewritten? What are the migration challenges? We need to evaluate, what are the things that we need to evaluate and finalize part of the migration. So we need to also identify the risks and have everything baked into the plan, migration plan. And by knowing the target architecture and estimating the infrastructure costs, we need to bring that. What is the infrastructure cost and what is the migration cost? And we need to do the TCO for the target system. So now, understanding using the discovery tools and doing the assessment, we need to put together a migration plan. And part of the migration plan, we need to break it down into multiple phases. It could be by few databases or by application and workloads. So having that phasing that is important. And once the phases are identified, we also have to divide further into by modules or workflows and the SIT cycles, UAT cycles, and the load test cycles, and how the resource loading is going to look like during the migration and post-migration, and as well as we also had to plan how the production cutover is going to be. So this is all has to be incorporated into the migration plan. And usually the migration deliverables, the assessment deliverables are the migration assessment report, the migration plan, and the TCO ROI analysis report. So having a good assessment and migration plan, how do we handle the actual migration? And for migration process, creating the environments is important, like having a reference environment being, like in this case, Oracle environment, so that we can go back and test it in the Oracle if needed. And we need to build the target environments, like target environments or development, SIT, UAT, and in some cases there could be pre-prod or staging environments, and finally the prod environment. So all these environments does not have to be built on the go. Well, they can be as we are going along in the project. We can build these environments. So after that, the database preparation is an important phase where we actually migrate the schemas convert them into Postgres format from Oracle. And we had to do data migration, data validation. In parallel, we can also do code objects migration, the code conversion, and making sure that they are deployable and there are no execution issues for code objects. Along with it, we also have to address other database features like users and roles, any replication processes, any jobs. All those things also have to be migrated, part of the database preparation phase. So we had to have database test cycles, and those it has to ensure that there are no execution issues, and functionally and performance-wise, it is meeting the current system. So when we are migrating, when we are preparing the database, we also have to do the workload remediation, the application, like whether if it has any data access layer changes. Means for sure it has because of the platform change. Those have to be addressed in parallel. So once the development phase is over, and there's a testing phase. In the testing phase, like the important thing is test preparation, like breaking down the application by modules and workflows, and preparing the test cases is important. And then having those test cases categorized into SIT cycles, like define the SIT cycles. Bi-weekly SIT cycle is an optimal. So execute these SIT cycles, log the issues, and then direct to the development team. And the development team has to address these SIT bugs, and as well as any production changes that are coming in, because while migration, there could be production changes are also happening. Incorporating that into test cycles is important. And the load test cycles, defining load test cycles, like how we are executing the load test cycle, load testing, like having single user testing and gradually increasing the load to 5%, 10%, 50% until we reach to the 100%. Defining those cycles and executing load test cycles is important as well. And finally, there should be 2 to 3 UAT cycles so that we are closing on UAT to go to production. And the production cutover the production environment has to be prepared. We have to do initial data load. We have to do the CDC, and this initial load and CDC can be done few times and do mock cutovers. It is even better to have a failback plan tested as well, part of the cutover, production cutover. So we can use before we do the actual cutover, we can use these environments for end user sanity testing, for functional and performance testing as well. So it is very important to have end users prepared and having proper support plan and cutover plan before we do the actual production cutover. So that covers like assessment and as well as the migration process. So it looks like it is simple, but having all those processes executed seamlessly is very critical, important, right? Having a tool, a migration accelerator like a QMigrator, which incorporates all these migration processes, including from assessment and doing the configuration, setting up the environments, and doing the actual migration in terms of schema conversion, data migration, code conversion, and doing the production cutovers, and also the validation, like how we do the dev testing, the SIT cycles, the load testing cycles. All of these processes are incorporated into this migration tool, QMigrator, so that the process becomes seamless and we are not missing any steps part of the migration. And it reduces the time drastically from months to weeks by using a tool like QMigrator. And it does significant savings for the customer. So using QMigrator, we can see migration. We have done migrations to Oracle to PostgreSQL at a very scale, like migrating 10 terabytes per day. Even the CDC is about 1 GB per minute, which is about 1 terabyte of transactions per day. And we have matched a similar performance for Oracle to Oracle migrations as well. And not only the tool can migrate the data from one database to another database, but it is useful to migrate, to move the data from operational stores into reporting platforms like Fabric. Here also we have achieved a significant performance of migrating about 6 terabytes per day, and then we can keep it ongoing to have the operational data migrated into a Fabric platform at almost the same CDC rate, about at 1 terabyte of transactions per day. So this is the data migration side, but here a sample database migration for the actual code conversion from Oracle to Postgres, where we have converted like 4,500 plus tables and 200 plus packages, 10,000 plus procedures, and 1,000 plus functions. So the QMigrator is both. It handles the data migration and as well as the code conversion and all the other migration aspects in terms of testing. And it does the performance tuning and also the database administration tasks as well. So you can see more information at qmigrator.ai website. And how do we achieve this at a scale? Like here, an architecture that shows it runs in a Kubernetes cluster. Central to it is a job agent, which kind of identifies how the source environment, what is the capacity available at the source, what is the capacity available on the target, and what is my migration cluster capacity, and what is my network throughput. It evaluates all of that, and it creates the data load jobs, the initial data load jobs, CDC data load jobs, and it runs them, it monitors them, and if there are any failures, it retries them. So that way, we are achieving the migration at a scale. Thank you very much.
Okay, Thank you very much for that, Tarun, and thank you to all our other speakers today, as well as thank you again to AMD, our sponsor, who made the webinar possible. If you do have any questions on any of the topics that our speakers covered today, feel free to reach out either through your account executive or your Azure specialist. You can drop an email directly to myself or to any of the other speakers, Jepta from Tessel, Tarun from NetApp, and Venno from Quadrant Technologies. And of course, we have plenty of documentation and self-paced learning that you can do as well. We've referenced some of that on this slide. So yeah, we'll stay on to take a few more questions. Otherwise, thank you for spending your time with us today.
Thanks for joining us at today's Azure Digital event. We have specialists on standby to answer your questions. Type your questions into the Q&A widget, and we'll get to it as quickly as we can. For additional links relevant to the topics covered today, be sure to check out the Resources widget at the bottom middle of your screen. Lastly, tell us how you found this experience. Through the survey widget. If you're not staying for Q&A, we hope to see you again soon. Thank you for attending.